You're 12, maybe younger, and the factory gate opens before sunrise. Inside, the air tastes of coal dust. The noise never stops. If you miss a shift, your family may go hungry tonight. This was not an exception. It was normal in industrial Britain and in other growing factories too. Children worked because they were small, cheap, and easy to replace. The machines were faster than the bodies feeding them. In the early 1800s, the Industrial Revolution changed work forever. Cotton mills, coal mines, ironworks, and textile factories multiplied across Britain and beyond. Steam power, water wheels, and mechanized looms produced goods faster than human hands ever could. That speed came with a human cost. Children were drawn into the labor system early. Some started at 5 or 6 years old. Others were sent to work because their parents could not survive on adult wages alone. Poverty did not ask for consent. In cotton mills, children cleaned under moving machines, tied broken threads, and carried spindles. Their small size made them useful in narrow spaces. It also made them vulnerable. One caught sleeve, one delayed reaction, then blood on the floor. In coal mines, children worked underground in darkness. Boys and girls hauled coal carts, opened ventilation doors, or crawled through cramped tunnels. The work bent their backs and blackened their lungs. Many never saw daylight during their shift. Factory days were long, brutally long. 12 hours was common, 14 hours was not unusual. Bells marked the beginning. Meal breaks were brief, and lateness could mean punishment. Exhaustion became part of the job description. Noise filled every room. Machines clattered, belts whirred, metal struck metal, and supervisors shouted over it all. Workers learned to read mouths, gestures, and fear. Conversation was a luxury. Dust hung in the air. Cotton fluff, coal particles, and chemical fumes entered the lungs with every breath. Children coughed, wheezed, and grew sick. Some developed chronic illness before reaching adulthood. Accidents were frequent and often horrific. Fingers were torn away by gears. Hair was pulled into spinning parts. Arms were crushed, legs broken, and bodies trapped where adults could not reach quickly. In the worst cases, death came instantly. Safety rules were minimal or non-existent in the early decades. Guards on machines were rare. Emergency stops were uncommon. Factory owners often prioritized output over protection. A broken machine could be repaired. A broken child could be replaced. Supervisors enforced discipline with threats and beatings. Children who slowed down might be struck, shouted at, or docked pay. Sleepiness was treated as laziness. Pain was treated as weakness. For many families, work was the only possible choice. Agricultural wages had fallen in some regions, and city rents were high. Bread prices rose and fell unpredictably. A child's wage, however small, could keep siblings alive. This was the cruel bargain of industrial poverty. Work or hunger, labor or eviction, silence or punishment. Survival had a price, and children paid it. Yet factory labor did not happen in secret for long. Reformers, doctors, clergy, journalists, and some politicians began documenting what they saw. They collected testimonies from children, parents, and workers. Their reports shocked readers who had never entered a mill. One of the earliest major investigations came in Britain, where Parliament examined child labor in mines and factories. Witnesses described children dragging heavy loads underground and working long hours in dangerous conditions. The evidence was detailed, disturbing, and hard to ignore. It was also only a fraction of the reality. Public pressure slowly built. In 1833 passed the Factory Act, limiting child labor in textile mills. It restricted the youngest children and introduced factory inspectors. The law was important, but enforcement was weak. Many children still worked long hours. Later reforms followed. The Mines and Collieries Act of 1842 barred women and young children from underground mining in Britain. The 10 Hours Act of 1847 limited working hours for women and young people in textile mills. Each step came after years of abuse, resistance, and public debate. But laws did not instantly transform daily life. Factory owners found loopholes. Families still needed income. Some children were pushed into other industries or into home-based piecework. The economy adapted faster than reform did. Outside Britain, child labor remained widespread during industrialization. In the United States, children worked in mills, mines, and on farms during the 19th century. In factories, they operated machinery, cleaned equipment, and handled materials. In urban households, some worked as servants or errand runners. The same pattern repeated across industrializing regions. Rapid growth created demand for cheap labor. Children filled the gap. Their wages were lower, their bodies smaller, their voices weaker. Profit used every advantage. Photographs from later decades made the issue impossible to dismiss. Reform tired children in mill towns, on factory floors, and in mines. Their faces were often expressionless, not because they felt nothing, but because they had learned endurance. Childhood had been shortened by necessity. Some children did survive to age 15. Many did not. Disease, accidents, malnutrition, and overwork claimed others before they reached adolescence. Even survivors often carried injuries into adulthood. Their bodies remembered what their childhoods endured. Imagine returning home after a 14-hour shift. Your hands are swollen. Your ears still ring. Your clothes smell of oil and soot. There is little food, and tomorrow will be the same. That was the daily reality for countless working children during the Industrial Revolution. Not every factory child died young, but many lived damaged lives. The system depended on their suffering, and everyone around it knew. That knowledge is part of the history. The phrase child labor can sound distant today, almost abstract, but in the 19th century it meant small hands near moving blades, tiny shoulders under heavy loads, and exhausted children standing for hours in toxic air. It meant parents making impossible choices. It meant childhood traded for wages. Industrialization brought cheaper cloth, more coal, faster transport, and rising production. It also exposed how quickly modern economies can consume the vulnerable. The smoke from those factories was not only in the air, it was in the moral record of an age. And so the question is not whether a child could survive those years. Some did. The real question is how many were forced to try and what it cost them. History leaves the answer in factory ledgers, reform reports, and the lives of children who never had a real childhood.